Welcome to the first episode of Sports Maineiac, brought to you by Maineiac Productions. This episode is, of course, sponsored by Lakewood Golf Course. They have a special right now that is $43 for 18 holes in a cart. That's ending this week, so make sure you take advantage of it.
I don't play golf.
Make sure you take advantage of that. But you know what? I played this morning. The greens are pretty nice. The course is in good condition. So make sure you get out there and tell them that Sports Maineiac sent you. But of course, you guys don't care about that, so let's get right into what we came to talk about. The NBA Finals. We'll start with Game 1. Any thoughts? Cleveland really impressed. LeBron scored 51. What do you think they can do to repeat that success in Game 2?
I think the Cavs, they really need to limit the Warriors' possessions when it comes to half court. LeBron really needs to take over. He needs to get in the pick and roll, I believe, at the top of the key. I think that's where they run their best offense. Because once you get LeBron going to the hoop, you get other players open, and we all know how great of a passer he is.
I agree, and what I saw a lot from them in Game 1 is that they ran a lot of pick and roll with Tristan Thompson, which is very effective because he's a very effective roller. He has good hands and he can finish. I would like to see him get a little bit more of the pick and roll with Kevin Love and get that pick and pop, because instead of Love trying to create his own shot, maybe LeBron creates some open mid-range look for him, get him going early, but not really force it to him. And so when he takes bad shots, and maybe gets a little off key. So that's a little bit of what Cleveland does. Of course, the role players need to play good. But what can the Warriors do to really take back the series that a lot of people thought they had 1-4?
I think if you're the Warriors, you need to look at what you guys did well in that first game, which obviously was play with tempo, right? And you need to be able to push the ball and get out there on fast breaks, because that's really what they excel at. Because not only are they dangerous on the inside, but they can also shoot from deep as well. It also sucked that Klay Thompson went down with an injury there in the first quarter, but you can't expect that. And you also can't expect Kevin Durant to be ice cold like he was in the first half.
That's true. I think if you're the Warriors, although it was close and although you were heavy favorites, I don't know how worried you are, because LeBron scored 50 and they lost. Given they probably had the game won, maybe a few calls go the other way, maybe J.R. Smith just shoots it after a rebound and Cleveland can win that one. But I think a lot of things is they need to find the right matchups, and I think someone who did that well was Jeff Green on Durant. And I know when we had discussed the game after, you talked a lot about Jeff Green's role and what he needs to do going forward.
Jeff Green's a great defender. He's the best I believe he's the best on Cleveland. He matched up great with KD. We saw that in the first game. When it comes to the Warriors, though, I think KD needs to get going, or the Warriors are going to go to a Game 7 with Cleveland. Because I guarantee you tonight, George Hill is going to shut out Steph Curry. But
I think if you're Cleveland, you got to look at who's giving you the best production off the bench, right? And if you look at that, I mean, Jeff Green had 7 points, not that bad. JR, obviously, he gets a few buckets every now and then. But Larry Nance, he didn't play that much. He only played 19 minutes, but came off the bench, had 9 points and 11 rebounds. I think that's going to be huge for Cleveland. That energy off the bench is going to give them a huge lift.
I agree. I think if I'm Ty Lue, I'm looking at those matchups, and Larry Nance provides this unique mismatch into where he's very athletic, but he's very smart. He doesn't force anything. He's a lot in the way that JaVale played in Game 1, and I thought JaVale played very well in Game 1. He used his size and athleticism against Cleveland, and I think if you're Cleveland and you're trying to match up to that, Larry Nance is the guy to go to. Maybe if Tristan Thompson isn't having the effectiveness that he had in Game 1 with rebounds and defense.
Tristan Thompson in Game 1, I mean, he had an okay performance, and he did what he does well, which is play defense. But you look at his stats, and it doesn't really show that much of an impact. In 20 minutes, he only had 2 points and 5 rebounds. And I know that's not necessarily what you're looking for out of a guy who's a defensive and a rebounding type of player. So maybe, they said they weren't going to mix up the lineups, but maybe you have a short leash with, Thompson, and get Larry Nance in there early. Keep Kevin Love in there. He seems to be the only other guy that can consistently put the ball in the hoop other than LeBron James.
Which is kind of surprising to say when you're talking about a team in the NBA Finals, you have 2 people putting the ball in the hoop. And I think that's where the role players, they're going to have to play better. LeBron's not scoring 50. I don't think he's going to. Maybe he does. He's a pretty good player. If he scores 50, then they probably win Game 2. But I can't think that he's going to do that again. He's going to have an off night eventually, and who is going to be the guy to step up and get buckets? You know JR is going to shoot it. Maybe he's the guy, maybe he's not.
He's either scoring 30 or he's scoring none. That's kind of the way he plays.
Scoring 30 tonight.
I think
So
if you're
what do
Steve
you-
Kerr, you look at the Warriors, right, and you see that, you know, you had Kevin Looney starting, and he played, you know, off and on throughout the season, throughout the starting lineup. But the energy that JaVale had for that team, especially on the defensive end, plus the role potential, you know, I mean, he's bound to have his mess ups, but he's a very consistent player.
He's a very underrated player. He's had a lot of, you know, the Shackton moments early in his career, but that doesn't change the fact that he's a 7'2" guy who can jump out of the building and play good defense. You saw it when he got switched on to LeBron and played good defense. So I think as we boiled it down, Cleveland's got to play a very similar game. LeBron's going to have to be very effective, and you just need the other guys to step up. And if you're the Warriors, you need to come out and play with some aggression.
Yeah.
I mean, in transition and on the defensive end was lackluster, switching everything, fight through a screen. What I don't understand what happened in both the conference finals and now into this one. You gotta learn. You gotta get through a screen, especially if you're Draymond on LeBron. That's your guy. You're a defensive stopper, so stop him.
Yeah, as soon as you get a switch where Curry's on LeBron, I mean, it's not much of a competition anymore. LeBron's too big and strong.
They got to get back on defense as well. When LeBron drives to the hoop and doesn't get a foul call, he's got to get back. That's an automatic 5-on-4 for the Warriors, and with their shooting, that's an easy 3 points.
Exactly. And I think, and it comes a lot with LeBron. As great as LeBron is and great stuff that he does, he's a guy who, if he dunks on you, he's going to stand there for 15 seconds. If he doesn't get the call, he's going to stand there for 15 seconds. And the Warriors they didn't attack that like you see them do, and you see them do so well. I think Steve Kerr is going to have them ready. He's going to have them ready tonight, and I think you're going to see a little bit different game from the Warriors tonight in game 2.
Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's going for 30 tonight.
Yeah, he scored. What did he have? He had
26.
He had 26. He had 26 in game 1, but that's a lot of free throws. There's some layups in there, mid-range jump shots. But he missed a lot of open jump shots. He made some tough shots, but he missed shots that he normally makes. Same with Curry, same with Clay.
Green as well. Green was playing great defense. So.
Great, absolutely. I think that is a testament to Green. So that's kind of what you'll expect to see from the coaches when they make these switches in game 2. I think going forward for the rest of the series, the first game in Cleveland is going to be a big one to see how those role players come out, and they played so much better in Cleveland. I think that tonight, in my opinion, you're going to see the Warriors probably pull this one out. Probably going to be still a little closer than some people might expect, but I think game 3 and game 4, and then of course the pivotal game 5, which I do believe it will go to a game 5. I do think Cleveland will get one or both of them in Cleveland, but I think you're going to see later in the series as they kind of read and react to each other.
Yep.
You're going to see adjustments made, and both teams are going to have to play great basketball to win.
Warriors in 5.
Warriors 5.
I mean, all you have to look at really is how the Warriors played in the third quarter. I mean, granted, the box score was kind of back and forth, and it was probably pretty even. But if you're the Cavs, you need to limit that third quarter
You
because
need to come out with more intensity.
yeah,
They
because
let
you know that they're going to
7
come out
or up.
firing and they're going to make some jump shots, and that's what these guys do. That's what they get paid to do.
Right, and that's where you saw the struggles of the Warriors in game 1. So they just didn't make the open shots that they got in the third quarter. I expect them to make those shots tonight, but I also expect Cleveland to come out with a different intensity, given how they probably gave away game 1.
I also don't think you can expect LeBron to shoot from 30 feet thinking he's Steph Curry again.
I don't know. He was 1 for 1 that game when he pulled that deep.
He was pretty hot.
J.R. Smith, watch him tonight. Big game from him.
Yeah, I'll watch J.R. Smith dribble the ball out again.
So now I think we're going to move on to the award races, and we're going to start, discussing who we think is most deserving of each individual award. So to start, we have Most Improved Player. We have Victor Oladipo, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Clint Capella. What do you guys think?
I think obviously the obvious choice would be Victor Oladipo. He had an amazing year. He built, but I do really think that there's a case to be made for Spencer Dinwiddie. Now, given the Nets are not a very good team, and we know that, but it's for the player who improved the most, and he took a game that was lackluster last year, and he became a real force in that team when they didn't add or lose anybody.
I mean, you could see Victor Oladipo a star in the making when he was in college at Indiana. I mean,
Right.
very explosive player. He definitely worked on his jump shot when he got to the NBA. I just think he was a poor fit in Oklahoma City because, you know, he's playing alongside Russell Westbrook, who is a very, very similar player. You know, they're both drive first. They're both really athletic, both pretty good defenders. Victor Oladipo probably more so than Russell Westbrook, but, you know, Westbrook just has that high motor, high command.
And you see these players now start to go off when they get their own team. The offense revolves around them. So I think that's what helped Victor a lot this season.
Right. Yeah. I had it when I was going through and trying to figure out who I think deserved them. I initially just thought, yeah, it's Oladipo, hands down. And you look at it and you take a guy who goes from playing with the MVP, a guy who probably has the highest usage rate in the league in Russell Westbrook, to giving him a franchise that was thought to be rebuilding, and a guy who you could see that potential in already.
And they could compete.
Right, and yeah, and he improved a lot in doing that, but I think he was a very good player last year, just in the wrong situation.
And
It's-
we're not trying to knock on Clint Capella here. He's probably
Oh,
one
no,
of the
not
best
at all.
centers
He's
in
a
the league.
great
But you
young
got to
center.
look at, you know, when you had James Harden, granted, he did average a double-double, you know, with points and assists last year and was one of the league leaders in assists last year. But you got to look at Chris Paul, right? He's made his living his entire career off of pick and roll. You know, feed it to the big man. He's always had a good player. You know, he's had DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, those guys who he could just throw it at the rim and they'd go in and get it. You know, and Clint Capella is that same very similar style player, heavy inside presence and a great defender.
Right, and I mean, you know, obviously he improved tremendously going from that, and I think it is a testament to how good Chris Paul is. I'm pretty sure we're going to bring that up a little later in the show. But so if we go with our picks, who's your pick for most improved player?
Victor, I'd give it to him just because of his competitiveness. You saw it in the playoffs against LeBron. He didn't back down. So I'd give it to him.
I'm gonna go with my pick a little bit out of the box. Is probably he'll get some votes for it. I will go with Spencer Dinwiddie. I really was impressed with how he handled himself in a bad situation in the Nets. I hope they get better, and I hope to see him continue to improve and kind of find a place in the NBA.
Yeah, I think I got to go with Victor Oladipo as well. You know, he's just an explosive player. He showed his complete game, not just offensively, but also on the defensive end, and carried a team that really has, you know, some budding young stars that are coming into the league, and Miles Turner and Lance Stevenson's obviously a great role player there for that team. So I think he wins that hands down.
So you have it, the first award on our panel. We had decided to go with Victor Oladipo.
Next up, we have the sixth man of the year. We have Lou Williams, Fred VanVleet, and Eric Gordon.
No, I don't want to. We talked about how the last one is kind of, people might see it as a runaway, but I'm probably gonna go with this one's probably
Come
a
on.
runaway with Lou Williams.
Come on.
What? I don't understand. Lou Williams, he took a team that lost Chris Paul. They traded Blake Griffin away half of their season. They were said to be rebuilding, and what he did from the bench was lead that team almost to a playoff spot. Coming off the bench, it's regardless of how many minutes he played.
They should have given him the award at All-Star, at the All-Star break.
Exactly. I mean, he was an all-star, and he got snubbed off the bench.
I don't know. I'm a little back and forth here because, okay, well, you got to look. Eric Gordon coming off the bench, he does some great things for that Houston Rockets team.
Absolutely.
He provides instant offense, right? And you got to look at the minutes between the two. Eric Gordon does play a bunch of minutes for a six-man. Lou Williams is playing almost 40 minutes a game. That's not six-man minutes. That's starter minutes.
I agree there.
Okay, but that's not a knock on his case.
No,
The
not
sixth
at
man-
all, not
And
at
right,
all.
and the sixth man is an award for the sixth man to come into the game for your team.
I
And he
just
didn't
think-
start. And it's a testament. It's not who starts the game; it's who finishes the game. And he gave the second unit a great boost, and then continued on to play with the first unit and to continue to give them a great boost.
I just think there should be a minute restriction if you're going to be considered a six-man, because now you're looking at the same thing that when James Harden was in OKC with Durant and with Westbrook, you know, in the beginning of his career. He was a guy who'd come and play 35, 40 minutes, being the first one off the bench. You're not really a six-man at that point. To me, you're a starter.
Right, but that being said, James Harden still won sixth man. Same thing with Jamal Crawford. He's still the greatest sixth man of all time, but he was in the same role with the same organization, the Clippers.
I don't know. What do you guys have for votes on that?
I think,
got Williams.
yeah, in my opinion,
I got Williams.
Williams runs away with this one.
I think it's Eric Gordon, but
Should be
2 to
J.R.
1,
Smith, but-
can't win it all.
Yeah, J.R. Smith.
All right, next
Warriors
up,
six-man, J.R. Smith.
up next we have Defensive Player of the Year. Candidates are Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, and Rudy Gobert.
Start this one.
All great players. If I had to pick one, I'd go with Anthony Davis because of the players he can guard. He can guard from a shooting guard to a center.
That's true. I think with a lot of these awards, you have to look past the stats. You have to look at what else they do. And these are three very similar players.
Absolutely.
You have three all-star centers. Maybe they didn't all make all-stars because Rudy Gobert wasn't, but he is an all-star when he plays a full season.
Yep.
And they're very similar players. They attack the game very similarly. But I think Anthony Davis is better if he gets switched out on a player like Curry. No one's going to be able to guard Curry, but I think he presents the toughest challenge out of the three when you're guarding a great guard.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing to look at here is defensive efficiency with and without that player. And I know the knock against Rudy Gobert is he missed the majority of the season. You know, he missed a big chunk of time. And same with Joel Embiid. He was always on minutes restrictions, and he was coming off an injury from last year. You know, and it's tough when you're looking at this because you're looking at Anthony Davis and like this guy was there almost every night, played his heart out, and he was, you know, the best defender on his team
Led
by
his team
far.
to the playoffs. and
Absolutely.
First round win.
So, what do you guys have for Defensive Player of the Year?
Davis.
I think it would be Gobert if he played a full season.
I agree.
But because he missed a lot of games, Davis with his versatility,
Did Gobert get last year? No, last year.
I believe Draymond.
Yep.
Either Draymond or Kawhi.
Or
one
Kawhi.
of
I
those
think
two.
it was.
I think they
Oh,
alternated.
yes.
So I think because Davis presents a challenge to all five positions when he's guarding them, I have to give the edge to Davis.
I think Anthony Davis as well. He's a freakish athlete. You know, he's long, he's tall. He's really, really, really athletic. Like you said, he can cover almost any position on the floor.
I don't know if you caught it there. I screeched for the first time. I remember my voice went out.
It's the worst.
That's why we keep it live, folks, so you get stuff like that.
Up next, we have Coach of the Year. Oh, this is a sensitive topic around these parts.
Look.
We have Brad Stevens, Dwayne Casey, and Quinn Snyder.
Dwayne Casey got fired.
Look,
How is he? How?
look, we say it's a sensitive subject around these parts. None of us are Celtics fans, though. Let's point that out right now.
Yeah.
We have Cavs fan, Wizards fan, Lakers/Mavs fan.
I just like Dirk.
Yeah, we'll go with Lakers/Dirk fan. But yeah, I mean, around here is the consensus that Brad Stevens is the greatest coach of all time already.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it is in Maine.
He's just the greatest coach in the league right now, I believe, behind Popovich. But I mean, a couple more years.
You know what?
He's almost already.
You know what? I think I put him past Pop already. But this is, I mean, that's
That's
over.
a bold statement. But, okay.
But if we're gonna put it just in terms of this year, I think you look at Stevens, you look at Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
They took teams who lost all. They actually technically they lost the same All-Star. They both lost Hayward.
Yeah.
And what Quinn did with his group to get the 5 seed or the 4 seed, they were in that matchup. What he did with that group is very impressive, and it's the same reason that Stevens is in the conversation. What he did with the Celtics to get them to the 2 seed, with Hayward missing the whole season, playing a bunch of rookies or second-year players, with Kyrie missing games, is very impressive. And I think that we are discounting what Casey did, but I don't know how much he did to improve his team from this year.
I mean, they were
from
still a
last-
good team last year, and they didn't really lose that many pieces. You know, Fred VanVleet had a wicked breakout season as a six man, you know, but it was ultimately the Kyle Lowry and the DeMar DeRozan show. And come playoff times, DeMar DeRozan does what he does.
Swept
He
by
scores
LeBron.
buckets, but it seems like Kyle Lowry seems to vanish in those heated, you know, intense moments
You
come
can't blame it.
postseason.
You can't blame it all on Casey, obviously.
Oh,
No,
absolutely not. And they are a very, and I think when you look at Casey and you look at why he's one of the front runners is they're one of the most efficient offenses, one of the most efficient defenses.
They win games.
But the thing is I think he underutilizes half his team.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Kyle Lowry is a runaway second best player on the team. Valanciunas is a very good center.
And Serge Ibaka is a good role
but
player.
he underutilizes his big guys so much and he doesn't have his team come ready come playoff time.
Yeah.
And I know this is a regular season award, but I think that has something
Yeah.
that starts in the regular
He
season.
went 10 deep in the regular season, and then coming down to that last playoff series, he went 6 deep, 7 deep.
Right. I just think that in the regular season he is
You
a
gotta
good
stick
coach,
to what you.
but he doesn't squeeze a lot of talent out of that team. There's talent there already,
Yeah.
and Stevens squeezes the life out of this team for talent.
Yeah.
You have Kyrie, but he kind of revolutionized what Kyrie did on the floor, because Kyrie went from this ISO guy, who was okay. It's LeBron's turn. Now it's my turn to score,
Not a great defender either
Right.
in Cleveland.
and he kind of turned his game around quite a bit. So I think who do you got for your pick?
I got Stevens.
I as well have Stevens.
And I'm going to go with Quinn Snyder here. I don't think he gets enough love because you got to think he did lose his all-star in Gordon Hayward, his best player. He did get lucky with a great draft pick in Donovan Mitchell, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But he also lost Rudy Gobert for a lot of that season, you know? He did the same thing similar as Brad Stevens, but he didn't have a lot of young talent, right? He had a lot of veterans. You know, he had people like Joe Ingles that were able to come in and get buckets. So next up, we have Rookie of the Year. We have Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum.
I'll start this one off because I know it's going to be a two-man race, but I want to show some love to Tatum because, in my opinion, if this is a playoff, if the playoffs are included, Tatum showed that he was the best rookie in the league by far. He completely destroyed Simmons in the playoffs, and Mitchell wasn't as efficient in the playoffs because he's young, but Tatum really stepped up without Kyrie.
Yep.
But of course, this is a regular season award. Kyrie was there. Tatum was not as effective. So I think it is between the other two people, both very good rookies.
I'm going to make my case for Donovan Mitchell. I mean, that kid came out, was a freak. He was a leader of that team, which was, you know, beaten and battered, and not to mention they had just lost Gordon Hayward in the offseason. You know, it was a really tough situation for him to come in and improve that team drastically. You know, I think that's tough, especially as a young kid, rookie, first-year player.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. You can make your case for Simmons, but at the end of the day, you just gotta look at what Mitchell did for that Jazz team, leading them to a playoff victory, and then playing. What did they? They won what?
Yeah.
They won against. Who did they play?
Thunder.
Yes.
Yeah, he went against Westbrook and was very good.
All right, so who do we have for votes on Rookie of the Year?
Well, I'm gonna go with Ben Simmons. We didn't because I know we're running a little long on time right now. First week we're still getting used to it, but I'm gonna go with Ben Simmons because he led rookies in rebounds. He led rookies in assists. He can guard 4 positions. He's probably gonna go down as a once in a generation talent, even though he can't shoot.
Much like Magic Johnson and very comparable body-wise to LeBron James.
100%, and I think the jump shot comes with time. I
Absolutely.
think he's going to work on it. He has the drive to work on it.
Great case in that is look at Jason Kidd. For the beginning of his career, couldn't make a jump shot. Come the end of the year, come the end of his career, he was a great three-point shooter. He's got plenty of time. I'm going to throw my support toward Donovan Mitchell as well. I think Kidd's great talent, and I'm excited to see what he has in the future. Lastly, we have MVP between LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and James Harden.
Well, I'll start off by saying all 3 tremendous seasons. Probably all 3 were the best seasons of their career, which it makes this tough. But I'd probably go saying, LeBron just put the team on his back. He put 2 teams on his back because they kind of had a new team halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And he was that effective with a whole new group. And it's no knock to Harden or Davis, both tremendous players, both tremendous years. But if you take Harden off the Rockets, they're a playoff team with Chris Paul. But if you take LeBron off of Cleveland, they're not good.
What do you think, Derek?
I think LeBron's your MVP every year. But I might be a little biased, but
Cleveland fan.
you just got to look at his production throughout the years. 8 straight final appearances. I mean, the guy's a freak of nature. I think he's the greatest player of all time. Maybe we'll get into that topic another week, but to me, it's LeBron, no doubt.
I'm going to spend some time here talking about the other 2. James Harden, we all know what he can do. He's a fantastic scorer. That's what he's going to do.
Player.
He's a great player, though. You got to look at. He's not that great defensively.
Okay, but LeBron's not that great defensively this year either. He was very poor defender this year.
I think
He's got to
LeBron-
carry the team.
LeBron
on
poses
offense.
Okay,
a
but
bigger
that's
threat.
that being said, you still have to play both sides of the ball. And I think that's why Davis is here.
Yeah.
Davis is Defensive Player of the Year candidate, as well as scoring 20 plus, 10 plus rebounds, and he gets blocks, he gets assists, he gets steals. That's why he's here. But that being
The
said,
Pelicans are better without Cousins. Let's just get
The
that
reason I'm going to throw James
that's
Harden.
debatable. We'll talk about
The
that
reason
later.
I'm going to throw James Harden out of this is because he can take nights off and they can still win.
Yeah.
You still have Chris Paul,
Yeah.
who's an all-star talent, probably one of the best point guards to ever touch a basketball. He's got to be at least top 15 all time.
present company excluded.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, this guy is a flat-out baller. He gets points, he gets assists. You look at James Harden, you know, he's a great player, but at the end of the night, you look at taking, like you said, Anthony Davis off the Pelicans. That team's not that good. He did have a tremendous second half of the season when Boogie Cousins got hurt, because Boogie Cousins was a huge piece of that team. But I think without him there, it just kind of allowed, you know, Anthony Davis to shine. I'm going to throw my vote to Anthony Davis. Played both sides of the ball very well. Second half of the season, best player in the league.
I'm going with LeBron James.
Jazz was LeBron.
All
So yeah,
right.
to LeBron. LeBron is our pick. And now that brings you to the end of our show. This is first week. We're still learning. We're gonna get better as we go. Of course, we ran a little long this week, but I think we had a good discussion. It didn't really stall out. There's stuff we got to it we wanted to talk about. And please share it, follow it, go on YouTube, watch us on YouTube, watch us on Facebook. Give us feedback. Anything you guys can do to make this show better. We want this to be a collaborative effort between us and the viewer. So with that being said, you know, next week we'll maybe discuss a little baseball. Yeah, MLB is heating up. We'll discuss the finals, and hey, maybe we'll even get into the Stanley Cup a little bit. I'm fully on the Vegas Golden Knights bandwagon right now.
Vegas doesn't have a hockey.
Derek, do you even know what the Stanley Cup is?
Who's Stanley?
This is Maniac Productions signing off. You guys have a wicked nice day.
Wait, JR for 30.
Oh my
tonight.
God, you are
JR for 30.
You
Here
are
we go.
Mark my
insane.
words.
Yeah,
Game
30,
2.
30,
maybe
30,
40.
30
All right,
shots.
stop with this blasphemous
Maybe
nonsense.
40.
See you guys next.